Hey everybody, welcome back to my videos. This is McKay Tabs here. And today we're going to be talking about Pro Tools 101, Lesson 9, using effects. We're going to be talking about inserts and how to put plugins on inserts. We're also going to be talking about how you use those plugins. Some of the plugins we're going to talk about are EQ, 7-band EQ, what those bands are. We're going to be talking about compressors and limiters. We're also going to be talking about delay and reverb and creating aux tracks for those effects and routing them using the buses inside of Pro Tools to route aux tracks into your session. And last of all, we're going to talk about Audiosuite, what it is and how to use it and why it isn't a plugin and why you might want to use it instead of using a plugin. So let's get started. All right, so here is my Pro Tools session, and I just want to show you at the very top of each of my tracks, I have my inserts. There's 10 of them, inserts A through E, that's 1 through 5. And right now I have sends A through E. I can only see 5 inserts and 5 sends. If I want to see more of the inserts and sends, I need to come down here to the customize bottom in the bottom left corner and click on that. And then it will show me, I can customize everything that I'm seeing here in my tracks. So here's inserts F through J. And I've just added them into my tracks. And now I can see all 10 of the inserts. Inserts A through E, inserts F through J. Right now, they're just empty spaces. I don't have any plugins instantiated on them. Probably not going to put 10 plugins on each track. In my experience, it's kind of rare to use all 10 of those inserts, but it's an option and you might need to. So I'm going to turn off inserts F through J. So I just see the first 5. So this is how you put a plugin on a track. You just go to the insert you want to place it on and you click. And then you get this option that says plugin, and you scroll over here and you have you have the ability to choose what kind of plugin. Do you want an EQ plugin? Do you want some dynamics plugins or compression, pitch shifting plugin, a reverb plugin, a delay plugin? What do you want? An instrument plugin? This is what you would use on a MIDI track or an instrument track, because these are your virtual instruments that you would be adding that would generate the sounds for those tracks. But for our purposes right now, let's go to EQ, and I'm going to go to the EQ menu, and I'm going to select the 7-band EQ. And now I have the 7-band EQ instantiated on this track, and I have it open. I can close it. If I want to open it again, I just click on it. If I click back and forth on top of the plugin, it will open and close. And that's what you can do to be able to see your plugin. Now, I also have some more plugins here on some of my other tracks. If I click on these other track plugins, they will immediately replace whatever plugin is visible. Why is that? And what if I want to see multiple plugins at the same time? Is there a way? There is a way. Up in the top right corner of every plugin, there is a red button. This is called your target button. And when that target button is on, it is targeting that plugin to be the main plugin. So it will be replaced when you start clicking on them. What if we click on the target button and turn it off? What happens when we click on an additional plugin? We now have both of those plugins open. If I click on another one, it gets replaced. Why did it get replaced? Because I have the target button on. If I turn off the target button, I can then click on new plugin buttons and I can add them. So I can see as many of the plugins in front of my window as I want to. But generally, this just opens up a big mess of windows, right? And you wouldn't really want to see 12 plugin windows all at the same time, because that's a lot to work on. Which is why it's a good idea to leave that target button red, so that every time you switch to a new plugin, your old plugin will be replaced with the new one. Now, let me point out the fact that you can move your plugins. If I click on this plugin and drag it down, I can drop it to the insert that's right below. That's kind of cool. So I can also drag it to the right and place it on the track that's right next to me. Maybe the track that's next to me is the same instrument and I want to have the same kind of EQ on both tracks. But wouldn't it be nice if you could drag it back and forth and you could keep it on both tracks? And you can do that. All you have to do is hold down Option, click it and drag it to where you want to go. So I'm going to hold down Option, I'm going to click, I'm going to drag to the left, I'm going to let go, and now you'll see the EQ is on both tracks. And just for the record, it's set at the same setting it was on the first track. So the EQ would be exactly the same. So if you already spent time tweaking it and getting it just right, and then you copy it over with the Option, click, drag, drop thing, it's going to have the exact same EQ parameters. It's also possible to bypass plugins. So let's say you started to adjust the parameters of this EQ and you liked it, but then you just wanted to hear what it sounded like without EQ again, you could hit this bypass button. And when you do that, it totally bypasses the EQ that you programmed. But then when you want the EQ to sound out again, you hit the bypass button again, and now it's back. So you have this bypass button that helps you to preview your material with and without the plugin. The thing to understand about bypassing a plugin is it still uses computer power. So your computer is still processing that plugin. So sometimes the danger of plugins is when you get too many of them in your session, they can make your session run slow. They can produce latency. They can make your session stop playing when you push play because your computer has a hard time processing that. So sometimes you want to disable or make inactive a plugin that you're using so that it's not going to trip up your session. And you can do that as well by right-clicking. If you right-click on your plugin, you can select Make Inactive. Now you see how it faded out. Now my computer isn't using processing power on that plugin. But as soon as I want to make it active, I just right-click again and I select Make Active. So bypassing something still uses your computer processing power, but making something inactive does not use your computer processing power. So you can think about that and think about times when you might want to do either one of those. If I want to remove my insert, I'm going to click on that little dot there, and I can just select No Insert. And that will remove my insert and get rid of it. If I want to change my insert, I can click on that little dot. And instead of going No Insert, I can just go to the plugin list and I can add a different plugin right there. And now it changes to my new plugin. So you can continue to click those little dots to add and modify what plugin you're working in. So let's go ahead and look some more at this EQ plugin we've got right here. Right here at the top, we have the track selector. So it's telling me that this particular plugin is running on track number 6, the guitar melody. If I want to have it on my rhythm guitar, I could switch. But right now, my rhythm guitar track has a delay effect on it, the mod delay 3. So when I switched, it switched to that delay effect. But you can access your different tracks with their different plugins by using this track selector right here. This is my plugin selector. It's what's allowing me to have this be an EQ plugin, but I could change it if I want, and I could use that to change the plugin that I'm using on this. So I've just switched it over to a different type of EQ, and I could switch it back. And so that's your plugin selector. So let's talk a little bit about how this EQ plugin works. EQ is something that adjusts the timbre and quality of your tracks. It adjusts the frequencies of it. So when we're talking frequency, we're talking pitch, we're talking notes, and then you think about the instrument that's being recorded. A bass guitar is going to have very low frequencies, very low pitches. It's not going to have any high frequencies in there. A piccolo is going to have very high frequencies in there, and it's not going to have any low frequencies. And then different instruments or different voices are going to have are going to be in different ranges. So this EQ setting allows you to accentuate the frequencies that you want to accentuate, or to take away the frequencies that you don't want to have there. It's called a 7-band EQ. So if you count down here, there's 5 different colored knobs. Each of these knobs represents 1 band of the EQ. So you have the blue band here, and there's a blue dot for that. You have the green band here, and there's a green dot, yellow for yellow. And that's 5, but what about the 7? The 7th, the 6th and 7th are up here on top, HPF, LPF. And HPF stands for high pass frequency, LPF stands for low pass frequency. When you have a high pass frequency engaged, you're letting the high frequencies pass through. but you're cutting everything else. Low pass frequency does the opposite. It lets the low frequencies through and it cuts everything else. And then you have other, each band is representative of a different place in the spectrum. LF is for low frequencies. LMF is low mid frequencies. MF is mid frequencies. HMF is high mid frequencies. And finally, HF is the high frequencies. So let's start with high frequencies. I can take this blue ball here and pull it up, and I can raise up my high frequencies. And I can also use these knobs down here to manipulate that further. If I twist the frequency knob, it changes where it is. It makes it higher in frequency, or it makes it lower when I go this direction, more toward the mid frequencies. And up here, I can narrow or widen the range of that frequency. I can also select this, and now I can use this to sweep back and forth across the frequency range. Very important there. Notice these in buttons. If the in button is blue, it's on. It means that frequency spectrum or that band is on. So if you want to work with a particular band, you need to click it in, and then you'll be working on it. So let's go ahead and click in for all these different frequency spectrums so we can have them all on. Here's my mid frequency spectrum. I can raise that. Now I'm going to narrow it down a little. There. So anyway, what you want to do is you want to listen to your track, and as you're listening to the track, you want to be pulling these balls up and down and gauging how it makes it sound different, or you want to be tweaking these knobs. And if you're new at this, you have no idea what to do or how it makes it sound, then know that up here at the top, you have this factory default that you could click on, and you can access the presets for this. So let's say that you're trying to add EQ on an acoustic guitar. If you come up here to this list, and you could say, yes, here's an acoustic guitar. I want EQ that will add sparkle to my acoustic guitar. And you select that, and then when you select it, it will adjust the parameters of your EQ. And here is what the add sparkle EQ looks like. So you can listen to that acoustic guitar with it, then you can bypass it to turn it off, or you can push the compare button to see what it was. Actually, the compare button, I already have it set. Once I start adjusting things after it's set, the compare button turns blue because it's adjusting it with where it started. And then when you start tweaking it, it adjusts it with what you start tweaking it to. So I'm making all these changes, and now I can compare where I started and compare what I changed it to. Some of the other effects you want to add into your track include reverb and delay, but it's very common to not add reverb and delay on your tracks like the other plugins. And the reason why is because usually with reverb and delay, you want the reverb and delay to be the same on each track. You want it to match from track to track. And having to go through and put it on each track and set it to the same setting takes a lot of time and effort. Another reason is you want to try to avoid having lots of plugins. The more plugins you have on each track, the more computer processing resources that takes. So once again, having lots and lots and lots of plugins can slow your computer down, create latency, make your session stop. So the answer to that is to add reverb and delay on their separate aux tracks. So over here, I have two aux tracks on the side, and this aux track here is my reverb, and the next aux track is my delay. So I have reverb and delay here. And what I've done is I've just come up to the plugins at the top, and I have added reverb and delay as a plugin on the top of each of these tracks. So here you can see my reverb plugin and my delay plugin. So the question is, how do you get the reverb and delay from these aux tracks over here to these other tracks that you want them to be on? And you do that by using the sends. Notice I've already done that over here with my sends, reverb and delay. But before I use those sends, I've got to come to these aux tracks and I've got to configure the ins of them. See how my in and out say reverb and delay? That's because I have a bus here, and I have selected the reverb bus, And what a bus is it's like a cord that will connect tracks together. If you imagine a 1/4-inch cable that you use to connect a guitar to an amplifier, imagine connecting one track from another with a 1/4-inch cable. And that's basically what a bus is. That's what they were in the old days. So we're busing things. The default name for bus is bus and then number, bus 7A, bus 910. So you can select those. But what I've done is I selected a bus and then I right-clicked and I renamed it. And I renamed that bus Reverb. I'll call this one Reverb 22. So now I have bus 7 and 8, but I renamed it Reverb. Why? Because it's hard to remember that bus 7 and 8 is Reverb. It's much easier to go to your bus menu and see the word Reverb and know that that's your Reverb. So you can rename your buses, and you should, to help keep it simple. So now if I come here to my bus option, I have Reverb 22, which is selected, or I have my original Reverb, which I actually want to keep it on. And then the same thing for delay. I picked another bus for delay, and then I renamed it to be called delay. So now I have these two effects going out on the reverb bus, going out on the delay bus. Now I can come over here to my tracks where I want to add it, and I can click on the send, and I can add it in there. How do I add it? I go to the bus menu here in the send, and I select reverb from the menu. And now I have reverb added to that bus. Now I have delay added to that bus. But it's important to remember that the reverb and delay that are added are the reverb and delay that are over here. So what that means is whatever setting of reverb and delay you have over here on your aux tracks is going to be the setting that is routed over here to your sends on, in this case, it's on my guitar tracks. I've got it routed on my guitar tracks already. Click on it, and when you click on it, you'll notice that a fader opens up. What does this fader do? This fader is the fader that adjusts the effect and how much of that effect you want to have in your mix. So this is my reverb fader. So what I can do now is I can push play on the track, I can listen, and while I'm listening, I can add more reverb in, or I could take more reverb out, and I can find that sweet spot where I can get just the right amount of reverb in my track. So let's turn the reverb up really loud. I'm gonna push play, and let's give that a try. Let's start with delay. Notice that when you click on the plugin, it will open up a fader that you can use to adjust the amount of delay in this case. So when I turn that fader up, I hear the delay louder. I hear the delay a lot more. And that's not always the point here. Is you don't want to hear necessarily, but you want the delay to kind of make it sound bigger. So finding a subtle place to put it. But I'm also going to open up the effect, and right now I have it set at quarter notes. You'll see a quarter note selected here. I could also have an eighth note slapback delay. That would sound like this. Here's 16th note. Let's try half note. Okay, so that might be too much. I think what I want is the quarter note, but what I really want to do is pull it down. Yeah. So now I pulled it down just to make it a little more subtle in the mix. Let's do the same thing with reverb now. So here's my reverb plugin. Let's take a listen now. Let's add some reverb into it. Okay, now with this reverb, I sound like I'm in a big hall. I guess I actually have the dark concert hall selected. I can adjust how wet or dry I want that reverb to be. But also I think that's too much reverb. I'm gonna pull it back down. There. So remember, with delay and reverb, the goal isn't to be heard and have someone go, oh, that's some great delay or great reverb. It's to be felt, you know? And what it does is it makes your track, makes your instrument, whatever you add it to, kind of widens it out, makes it sound bigger than it is. It makes it sound like you're in a concert hall, for example. When you add reverb, you can make it sound like the place the performance is happening is all around you, and it's a lot bigger than it actually is. And so use delay and reverb to spread out the sound and to make it sound bigger and deeper in your mix. The last thing we're going to talk about here is the Audiosuite menu. If you go up to the top of your screen, you'll notice there's a menu that says Audiosuite. And this is where you can apply effects directly to your clip without doing a plugin. The cool thing about the Audiosuite effects are that they don't take computer processing power. So if you just want to add a certain thing to a clip real quick and not have to worry about, you know, the plugins and stuff, you can do that. So here, like, I've got the EQ going through Audiosuite. I can once again select the 7-band. I can make some changes. I can apply those changes, and as soon as I do that, those changes are immediately applied to the clip, and they're saved onto the clip. So that's the cool thing about Audiosuite is, and I could close this now, and the clip will keep whatever I just barely did on it. One of my favorite effects on Audiosuite is the pitch shift. So if you come here to pitch shift, you can open it up and you can change the pitch of things in this plugin. Whatever you highlight, you can raise it up by however many cents you want. You could lower it, you can compare, you can change the pitch of things. So Audiosuite is another way to add effects into your clips, and it doesn't take any processing power of your computer. So all you have to do is select the clip and then come up here to the Audiosuite menu, and then you can start using these other sounds and these other effects directly onto your clip. Well, thank you for coming to my lesson today and learning more about effects, and that's it for now. So I'll see you in the next video.